Welcome to our Interview with Impact tutorial series. In this video, we're going to look at curveball questions, those questions that can put you on the spot. Before we get started, take a moment and write down what you think is your greatest weakness. We'll come back to this later. Curveball questions are those out-of-the-blue questions that seem to have nothing to do with the job or your professional experience. Instead, they're designed to assess your communication, creativity, or how you handle pressure. Or maybe your answer sounded too rehearsed or too good to be true, so the interviewer throws in a curveball to seek contrary evidence or to catch you off guard. As with any other question type, there are 3 key rules of interviewing that you'll need to remember when answering. The first rule is that your answer needs to show you in a positive light. The second rule is that you need to remain professional at all times. Curveball questions are designed to rattle you a little, so you'll need to keep your composure. And third, your answers need to focus on the company. You can get pretty creative answering some curveball questions, but your answer still needs to show how the company will benefit. Let's cover the big one first. What is your greatest weakness? This is a question that most people dread. To effectively answer the question, you need to understand why they're asking it. The interviewer is looking for self-awareness, humility, accountability, and an understanding of what's important in the business world. With that in mind, let's look at some ineffective and effective strategies for answering the question. While you may think it shows confidence to say that you don't have any weaknesses, this is not an effective strategy. Everyone has weaknesses. Dodging the question in this way will just frustrate the interviewer and won't score you any points. Don't joke about having too many weaknesses. This is not an effective strategy. While the humor might be appreciated, there's way too much risk that this will backfire. Sharing a non-weakness, like you care too much or work too hard, is definitely an ineffective strategy. Experienced interviewers will see right through the humble bragging. The weakness you share should be something that is fixable and something that doesn't have a negative impact on the job. For example, if you're interviewing for a sales job, you don't want to say that your biggest weakness is that you're shy. Shyness isn't easily fixed, and it would definitely impact how you performed in a role that depends on a person's ability to talk to people. Then, explain how you are addressing the weakness and share an example of success. Let's look at an example. In this example, the candidate shares that they aren't comfortable with presenting in front of large groups. Unless the job is for a corporate trainer or something similar, this is unlikely to prevent someone from doing the job, and it's a fixable problem with training. The candidate gives specific examples of how they are addressing the problem, like joining a public speaking group and taking PowerPoint classes. And finally, the candidate shares a success, taking initiative by seeking out a speaking opportunity and giving a good presentation to a large group. Now think back to what you wrote down earlier as your greatest weakness. With this strategy in mind, is this the weakness that you want to share? Take some time before your interview to reflect on areas that you would like to improve and select one that meets those criteria. There are all kinds of curveball questions, and there's no way to prepare for all of them. But if you follow a few guidelines to answering, you'll be able to maintain your composure and give a good answer. Some of the questions might be pretty off the wall, and it's okay to laugh and show your sense of humor when you hear them, but you still need to take it seriously. The interviewer is watching to see how you handle the situation. You may need to take a moment to think of a good response. Just say something like, "That's a good question. Let me think a moment." The interviewers want to see how creative you are and see your thought process and get an idea of your personality. Don't be afraid to show a little creativity while still keeping it professional. Your goal is to give an answer that shows your skills in a way that benefits the company. In the case of "What animal would you be?" you might say something like, "I'd be a dolphin because they're intelligent and work together to solve problems, but they're also really social and like to have fun." And remember rule number 1, be positive. Make sure your example shows you in a positive light. Saying something like, "I'd be a bull because I'm really stubborn," it's not going to make a great impression. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? This was an actual question asked at an interview for Whole Foods. What do you think they're trying to figure out here? How might you answer this? Remember that you want to tie it into the role and your skills. In this case, you might say that you'd take the ducks because you prefer to break big problems into small chunks. Or maybe you'd take the scientific approach and say that comparing the relative strengths of the animals, the duck-sized horse would be easier to beat. There really isn't a wrong answer. The interviewer just wants to see your thought process and how you handle the situation. Sometimes a technical question looks like a curveball question. In this case, how many pairs of shoes are in New York City? The interviewer is looking to see what your process is for solving a problem. You might say, well, the population of New York City is about 9 million, and the average person owns 10 pairs of shoes, so that's 90 million. And there are probably 100 shoe stores, and so on. In this kind of question, the numerical answer is not the real focus. Your goal is to walk the interviewer through your thought process. And sometimes there are good curveball questions, like what is your greatest accomplishment? This is the question you want because it's your chance to shine. You should have an example ready to go, one that ties into the skills and abilities you want to showcase. This doesn't always have to be a work accomplishment. This can also be an opportunity to share a little more about your personality and interests, things like running a marathon, organizing a successful fundraiser for a charity, or completing a degree. You can't anticipate every question, but a little self-reflection and preparation for curveball questions will help you hit it out of the park. And check out our other videos on networking, resumes, interviewing, and more. Good luck!